I had some conversations with people this week. All of it was very much related to stress. I was
Mhm.
doing a time management course, and one of the people came up to me and was like, this is good information, but it doesn't really fit like the job that I do, and I really need to learn how to manage my time better. So, we sat together and talked about like her responsibilities in her job, and she was sharing, and I'll keep the details private to keep her anonymity here, but um, she basically was responsible for a whole entire program. She's the only employee. She's been carrying it for like 3 years, and it's understaffed, it's under resourced, and she's responsible for like 200 people in the community and their well-being. And she takes that really personal. So she works late, she works weekends unpaid, and goes above and beyond to try to make up the difference in like what's not available to try to make these things work in an environment that's not very friendly to making it work. And she's burnt out. Like she's just at her like wit's end, and she's like, I don't know what else to do. And I gave her some really solid advice. I said, you have to let it fail, you know? Um, I go, what's the worst thing? If you just start, like my word of the day was act your wage. Like if
Mhm.
you started to act your wage, quit giving away free labor, quit working late, quit working weekends, quit working to your breaks and lunches, which all of this is a detriment to you. What's going to happen if you start taking care of yourself? And she's like, well, then people are not going to get their needs met and they're going to go yell at the director. I said, well, then they need to go yell at the director, but you have to stop like enabling this program to work understaffed and under resourced because you always bridge the gap. You have to let it work in the way that it's designed. And she's like, well, that means people are going to go without. And I said, that's not your burden to carry. You can't fill the gaps of where this program is not designed correctly. You need to let it fail, because the more that you make it work, the more that they don't have any incentive. The people who are the decision makers have no incentive to make it better. And you carry that burden. And I said, what happens if you burn out? Let me ask you, all these people that you're going out of your way to help, which I think you should be helping, like, don't let me take your compassion away from you. I love that you're compassionate about taking care of people. But what happens to them when you burn out and have to take a leave of absence? Who's going to take care of them then? She was like, there's nobody. So there you go. So you're doing yourself and everybody else a disservice by burning yourself out. So let it fail. So that was like last week. And then this week we had another conversation, a whole different place, a whole different topic. And one of the people in the class was talking about how just like months ago, she was so stressed in her position that her hair was falling out.
Mm.
Like she was literally had bald spots from her hair falling out, and she was sick, and she was, getting migraines and all of the things like you described earlier about it. And it took like she had to take a leave of absence, and she had to, set some different boundaries and, set some good expectations coming back. And I haven't got to that extreme. I can't say, well, maybe crying for 2 days straight might be it, but at what point, like, I know there's so many different facets to wellness, but where do we like draw the line for how much we're willing to invest in work before like it's too much, and where we have to set boundaries around our investment into our employment? Because I like we had a really robust conversation about this in the class. Like, if you work yourself to death, which a lot of people do, by the way, we were telling horror stories of people who have passed away at work at their desk. um, they'll replace you. Like within a week, there's gonna be an opening for your position. People are gonna be fighting over your cubicle. People are gonna be going through your pens and picking out the good pens, out of your pen drawer. Like people, you will be absolutely replaceable to your employer. But like, what about your family? What about your friends? What about your loved ones? Like they're not never gonna be able to replace you. They'll never be able to fill that gap in their lives. And so at what point do we set boundaries around like how much of my well-being am I willing to sacrifice for this employment? And I think that that's a hard like line to cross, especially given middle class values where a lot of pressure is put on achievement and status and success. Like where do we look at the opportunity costs for that, right? Like I want to be successful, but do I want to be successful with bald spots?
Yeah.
I want to be successful, but do I want to, read the my obituary, like, yeah, we're gonna really miss her, but she had the best KPIs in the whole company,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like there's got to be a balance. I'm not saying we shouldn't achieve. I'm not saying we shouldn't be invested in our work, but I'm also saying if it's costing you, the opportunity cost is your health and happiness and, ability to engage with your family and your friends in your life, then it's probably a bit too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the opportunity cost, yeah, for the rest of your life. And you'll burn out. You'll burn out quickly. You'll burn out quicker than most. And that's something we see a lot, especially in, helping professions and the jobs that we've interacted with on a regular basis where people will be burnt out. And the challenge is, if a lot of people, if they're burnt out or if they're not satisfied in their job, they're going to go look for something else. But how often are people who are working in a government job with retirement and benefits, that don't want to be there anymore, are going to give up those retirement and benefits, you know, um, that are helping them and their families to achieve retirement and,
Mhm.
to do those things that, like you said, those middle class values that we're looking for, right? And we're worried about how other people, oh, well, why did you leave the county? And, things like that, how people talk and how many how who was actually going to pursue actual self improvement in terms of stress and wellness, especially since we've
Mhm.
been taught to suck it up. There's something I talk about in class where one of the tips we talk about for mindfulness is take your breaks, right?
Mhm.
And I will ask most of the time when I ask people, I said, how many people here are really good at taking their breaks? You'll get some classes where a lot of people raise their hand, but most of the time, the majority of people do not raise their hand, right?
Right.
And you'll hear people, "Well, I'm too busy, or I don't have time to take a break, and I've got stuff to do, and it's distracting and gets in the way." And I mean, the research shows, I mean, we're only, you know, at the utmost, we are most effective up to 90 minutes at a time. And we lose effectiveness, and after 2 hours, our brain will start to spit things out indiscriminately. We can't control what we lose. And
Yeah.
so, if people have been sitting at their desk for a couple hours spinning, okay, where was I? What's going on? Did I forget something? Oh, what was the name of that place? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I go there every day. Maybe that's your brain saying, I need a break. Can we step
Mhm.
away? Can we relax and move forward? Right. But in society, we've been taught that it is a good thing not to take your breaks. Society has told people that not taking breaks equates to being a harder worker. Right? Have you ever heard that tip? Oh, they're so dedicated. They never take their breaks. They eat their lunch at their desk, right? And and I want to be like them. I want, that's how they take care of stuff. Well, yeah, and if you're overloaded, overworked, right, burnout happens. And if you're not paying attention to that, but you're also being encouraged to burn out, that's the dichotomy.
Yeah.
We're encouraging people to burn themselves out, to spin their gears, to spin a bearing, blow a head gasket, and then we
Yeah.
wonder why they take mental health days and why they go on stress leave. And so there's got to be a healthy medium. There's got to be healthy things that we can do. And like you said, if we are holding together a program, by strings and and glue, right, that if we weren't there, it would just fall apart. The program needs to improve, because if we're going to run ourselves ragged upholding this, then people aren't getting our best anyway,
Right.
right? And
And it's not
so,
effective. And it's
and
not
it's not
effective.
effective. No, so what is it that, we can do what is it that our organizations can do, to improve? But like I said, we can train people to respond to us. Excuse me. If we are that person who works 60 hours a week and does not bat an eyelash and does not complain, even though it's affecting us in ways that we don't even know, then our organization is going to say, "Oh, well, Chip's fine." I mean, Yeah, she works, but she never complains, and she never, she must enjoy what she does. And so we're okay. Why do we need another staff? We have Tiff,
Right.
right? And meanwhile, Tiff has got stuff going
Crying
on
for
that
two
she's not
days.
telling you about, right? And she's crying for 2 days. And, that's the thing. I mean, so recognizing that we're putting people in situations where they feel like if they complain or if they state, they're not even complaining, just advocating for their own wellness, that we are putting people in positions, of, poor health.
Yeah.
And then we say, oh, well, they're complaining, they're soft. Oh, this generation's soft. No, this generation knows how to advocate for their needs. They
Right.
speak out. And if they don't speak out, they're going to write something. It's going to be social media and it's going to be out there, right? So people know how to, state what they need. And, us older folks, oh, well, suck it up, rub some dirt on it. When I was growing up, I had to do this and I had to do, yeah, so did I. So did I. And I've got the knees to prove it. I've got the shoulders to prove it. I got the diabetes to prove it, right? You suck it up. You get in the car. You eat the fast food. You don't complain. You go from one job to the next. You play baseball and you got a little tweak in your ankle and you play through it and you hit a triple and you find out that your ankle's broken, right? These are all things that have happened to me. Rather than go to the doctor because I had a tennis match the next day and I dislocated my finger, I snapped it back into place and tied it up. Why? Because you got to suck it up. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
do, right? And so I'm not at my best in my tennis match. That's okay. I'm there, right?
Right.
Is there a difference between being there and being good at being there, right? So, what is it that people want? Do they want bodies or do they want people who are actually producing in a positive way?
I think they want bodies, to be honest with you. It's crazy. Like, I can't even form words right now, but here's like where I'm coming from. Even with time off, right? So we talk about wellness a lot. I talk what when you were talking about breaks, and I am such an advocate for people taking their breaks, and I have a few reasons. Like number one, don't work for free. I am a like you're getting paid money to do a job. That's the agreement. Don't do it for free. So those 15-minute breaks or 10-minute breaks or whatever your union or whatever your company has agreed to, like that's your time, that's your space. Take it. You're not doing anybody any favors by not taking your breaks and lunches. It's really just a disservice to you and everybody else around you. The other thing too, I like to think about when it comes to like breaks and stuff is like, do you know how many people have fought for our rights for rest breaks at work? How many people had to advocate because it wasn't always a given that you could take a rest break at work. And so every time we skip our breaks and lunches, we are disrespecting the ancestors. And I feel like if we've learned nothing over the last few years with the pandemic and such is you cannot disrespect the ancestors. Like we, we gotta we got to not take these things for granted because they're not something that's always been afforded to us. And so
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to think about as well. But when it comes to like employers, I can never understand the guilt trip that we people get with taking a day off or taking some time off. Like I still remember working for the county, like trying to be incredibly creative of like why I was calling in sick instead of being able to just say, I just don't feel like I want to come to work today, and I have time off, so I'm going to take the time off. A lot of times I do think it's just bodies. Like if one or two people calling out on your team is going to devastate your whole entire operations, I have to just say you have shitty operations. Like your system is not effective if a person taking one day off to manage their well-being is going to disrupt everything, then you have poor planning. It's not that that person called out sick. You have really poorly planned the way that your system operates. And that's on you, managers and people who are in charge. That's on you. And so um, there's like this guilt trip with people taking time to be well. There's this guilt trip that happens where people even think they can't take time off, right? Like I've got, it's like a
Yeah.
badge of honor. I've got 675 sick hours in my bank. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you are working too much. Like, take some time for you. Like, when are you living your life? If you've got that much time, then it's probably the level of cortisol in your system right now too. um, and I'm like, I love to ask the question, do any of you feel guilty in cashing your paycheck? And most people say absolutely not. And I say, why not? And they're like, I earned it. You earn your time off too. It's part of your compensation package. So when your company hires you, they say, we're going to pay you this much and this many sick days and this many vacation days and that's all part of your package. And so use that time. And by the way, there are people who use their time differently. They're just like people use their money differently. There will be savers who save for a rainy day. They want to keep a few weeks of vacation just in case. I'm not shaming that. Just like I wouldn't shame somebody who builds a big cushion in their savings account, like, oh, you save your money. Oh, you're not well. Like, do what feels best for you. And then there are people who are going to earn and burn. I'm going to take my time off as fast as I can earn it. And if that's the way that you choose to use your time off, then that's okay too. But we have to really focus on the well-being. Not to say that every job is stressful. Sometimes you can come to work every day and that's joyful for you. Like when my kids were little, when they were young, oh, I couldn't wait to go to work. Why? Because the alternative was I had to stay home and watch the kids. That sounds
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, yeah.
Wellness was going to work and taking the kids to, daycare or whatever, and being able to talk to other adults. So there's not like one right answer. It's whatever's right for you. But I hate the stigma of people taking time off. And I do think a lot of times like companies are not taking into consideration employee well-being. It is all about just having bodies in the seats or people in the space because everybody's short staffed. Well, if you're short staffed, like think about what it is about your company and how come people don't want to work there, right? Why are people not looking? It's not that people don't want to work. Everybody I know has a job, but they don't want to work for you. They don't want to work for you. So I think about even that with government work. Like it used to be a super flex. If you had a government job, like you made it in life. And now people hide their badges. Like, where do you work? Oh, they don't want to say it because
Yeah.
it's not lucrative and uh exciting like it used to be. It's terrible.
Well, it's a different time, right? I mean, used to have that need for security, right? That idea of retirement benefits, right? The county's where it's at. And you have different situations now. I mean, a lot of Gen Z, they're like, well, why do I need to worry about retirement and benefits right now? I'm in my 20s. I'm on my parents' medical until I'm 26. And why is that important to me? I want to, I don't want to just stay at a job. I want to do something that I enjoy doing. And people, oh, these kids are so entitled. Well, shit, I want that level of
They're
entitlement.
smart.
Yeah, I chase that level of entitlement. I create my own stress by, working for myself and creating my own schedule and hoping that people, think enough of me to schedule me to be able to do that stuff. But at the same time, you know, people have options. They have options that they never had before, right? They can work hybrid, they can work online, they can do different, you know, they, you know, being an influencer. There's people who are making so much money being an influencer, and
Yep.
it's like, oh, well, and who wants to be an influencer? Well, shit, my generation, they wanted to be rappers, right? The
Right.
generation before us, they wanted to be rock stars. Don't get it twisted, baby boomers, right? Please,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't get it
Let's not
twisted,
just the
Gen
boomers. Let's not
Xers.
just pick
No,
on the boomers.
don't get it twisted, Gen Xers. I mean, who wanted to, somebody wants, those are the things that people wanted to do when, and to be rich and famous or whatever else it is. We just have different perspectives of how to do it. And, if they find that ability to monetize their personality online, shit. I mean, is that something that we had growing up? No. Is that something that's normal to us? No. But at the same time, is this something that is normal to this generation who has been screen dependent, since they were 2 years old or one and a half in the back of their parents' car crying, and we put on a video for them or give them a tablet or our phone? What do you expect? Anyway, so, they're finding their joy. They're finding, and, and also think about when you're in your, I always tell people, when you're in your late teens, early 20s. How many people actually had it together in their early teens and late 20s,
Well,
right?
I did. I did.
Okay. So, which is why Tiff is who she is. But I mean, most of us are still trying to find ourselves, right? Still trying to figure out what it is that we wanted to do, right? That idea of, like I asked, when did you know that you wanted to do what you're doing now, right? What did you want to be where you grew up and when you grew up and how, when did you end up figuring out what it is that you're doing now, right? And so those are important questions to think about, when we have these perspectives of how we put stress on other people, how we expect other people to deal with their dailies and how they figure out if it's stressful or not, right? We have to really have a different perspective. We have to be open-minded when it comes to that. Just because something works for you doesn't work for somebody else. You said that, you don't have common sense. I think you have hella common sense. You have Tiffany common sense. You've made your life work for you. Don't let anybody tell you don't have common sense. Fuck them, right? Common sense ain't common.
No,
Common
it's
sense is
not,
not
but they were
common.
kind of right. No,
You know
I
what?
common isn't common. I agree with you on that one.
It's cool. I mean, if that's where you want to be with it, I got nothing but love for you, girl. But
Yeah.
I know better, right? So
Yeah.
just just recognizing that we have, the ability to pursue things. It's just, what do we do? What do we do in the meantime? What do we do? And here's the important thing: what do we do if we are locked into that job where we have retirement, we have benefits? And we are overworked and we are working those 60 hours a week. What can we do to help mitigate the challenges that we're facing now, right? Talking about future and setting up goals and going to school, that's great. Going to school and working is just an added stressor. It's a positive stressor if you look at it that way. I mean, we both have pursued and improved our education to where we can recognize, the benefits of, lost weekends and working nights and things like that. And so, but what if you're in the midst of it? What can you do in the midst of it, right? How can you focus? I mean, we talked about some of those things that that cause us stress, and how many of them are self-generated? How many of them are being social, playing on your phone,
Hmm.
right? The average American looks at their phone 150 times a day, right? So, if you just want to break it down to just even 15 hours a day, you have access to your phone. That's 10 times an hour. That's once every 6 minutes, right? I mean, is that a distraction? Is that something that keeps you from being as optimized at work as you want to be, right? You know,
Yeah.
uh, or just even the work phone or the emails, boom, right? The average American spends 6.3 hours a day occupied by their emails, right?
Wow.
It's not even where we're staring at our Outlook for 6.5 hours. No, we're working on something and something pops up in the bottom of our screen, or we're doing something on our phone or whatever else, and then the email will buzz or it'll bling, right? We get all those notifications. And so we are distracted. And how often do we look at it and it's not something that we need to be distracted about? Right?
Hmm.
If it's some sales offer or some idea about potluck that's going to happen or the blood drive and you've already signed up for it or whatever else it is, right? That draws us away from what it is we're focusing on. And every time we're drawn away from what we focus on, it takes us 5 to 9 minutes to get back to a level of focus and up to 24 minutes to get back to the same level of focus we were at before we were interrupted. So your bestie comes in
Wow.
and says, "Hey girl, what are you doing this weekend?" "Okay, we're gonna walk around the block at 11:30. All right, did you bring your shoes? All right, I'll see you." And just that 10 seconds. How often do we have those 10 seconds? "Okay, I'll see you." And then, okay, where was I? Okay, I was working on, you know what? Let me answer this email. Or let me check my phone. Right? All of a sudden, whatever lock-in we had and focus we had on what we were doing is gone. And we have to rebuild that focus. Right? So we do this to ourselves very often. And how do we get out of that? Right. So, and that's the whole idea of things like mindfulness, where we focus on one thing at a time, when we recognize, Lena said, to take care of yourself. A lot of people take pride in being a multitasker. I can multitask, I can handle all these different things. There's no such thing as multitasking, sweetheart. Not one bit. Right. You think you're a great multitasker? Your brain cannot function and cannot focus on two things at the same time at 100%. Right.
Do you know my multitasking test?
What's
This is
that?
how I tell people to see if they're a good multitasker. You ready? You ready for it?
Mhm.
Listen to two songs at the same time and sing
Mhm.
along to both of them at the same time. If you can do that, you're a good multitasker. And if not, then you're not. That's my test.
You know what my multitasking test is?
What?
When you're at the damn when you're at the traffic stop at the light and the light turns green and you're still not moving because you're on your stupid phone, right? You know, right? Have you ever
Yeah.
have you ever been typing and talking on the phone at the same time and you start typing what you're saying?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, so when people say, "Oh, I'm good at multitasking," no, you're good at going from one thing
Being
to another
distracted. Yeah.
quicker. But it is an intentional act, right? When you're not taking in all these inputs. If you've got two or more brains, then shit, tell me how to do it. I tell people all the time, UC Davis is looking for someone to teach that class and how to grow those extra brains. You can make a lot of money and then talk to me.
Yeah.
We'll write a book together and then we can both retire, and I can get my house in Carmel or an
Yeah.
Ensenada or whatever. Right. So that's but until that happens, we're not multitasking is not something that it's another fallacy. It's just like the fallacy of hard work, right? You don't take
Yeah.
your breaks. You're a hard worker. You're a harder worker. You can multitask. No, all you're doing is causing cognitive dissonance, and so you're doing two or more things at less than your best. And
Hmm.
so, focusing on that one thing, giving your attention to one thing at a time, limiting those interactions, that cause challenges. I had a coworker one time she came into our break room and she had a paper with a black hand and a red circle with a slash in it. And she goes, "I love you guys. You're the reason I come to work." And we have great conversations and we laugh and I enjoy you very much. She said, "But I enjoy you guys so much sometimes that I don't get my work done and I'm stressed out and I'm overloaded and I become irritable and I become crabby here at home and at home and I don't want to be that person anymore. So when I'm super busy and when I need to lock in and focus, I'm going to put this up on my cubicle." And she had, Velcro tape and put it up on the
Hmm.
cubicle. And she said, "If you guys come and talk to me, we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to laugh and everything. And then when you leave, I'm going to resent you and I'm going to resent myself for having that conversation. So please honor when that sign is up, please honor it." And so we did, right?
Good.
People will live up to expectations. Expectations are a wonderful thing. If you set the right expectations and have a reason for them, that can be a stress reducer as well. So how do we keep that focus, right? You know, taking our breaks, limiting those self-generated time wasters because we're going to have environmental time wasters that pop up all the time, right?
Hmm.
You can even limit those environmental time wasters. You're talking about, I have 200 people and I'm responsible for these things. I had somebody in the county one time say, "Carl, I'm responsible for 6 CPS social workers, emergency response social workers. They have, it's a high stressful job and they have I'm trying to accommodate them and live up to their needs. And so I'm doing my best for them. And so I can't take a break. I can't just be away from my desk. They may need me." And I said, "Okay, well, how do they understand what happens if you have to go to the bathroom?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Do they get upset and angry if you have to go to the bathroom?" "No, no. I mean, they understand that." I said, "Okay. Well, do you think they might understand that you have other responsibilities? You have other things that you need to do work-wise, personally, right?" "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, maybe you could talk to them and say, hey, I'll check, if you leave me a message or my email, I'll check my emails and my messages at the 45 of the hour, right? So 8:45,
Right.
9:45, 10:45, 11:45." And she said, "I don't know, the whole hour." I said, "Well, just let them know. I'll answer. And if it's something that's important, come talk to me or put a exclamation point on the email or whatever else it is, but just make sure that you're using the exclamation point correctly, right? And it's
Right.
not everything." And so I saw her in the next class the next month and she said, "Thanks. My I talked to the workers and they didn't realize that I had other things to do and they didn't realize the amount of pressure I was feeling. And so they said,
Mhm.
you only have to check it every 2 hours, right? And so we'll change our expectations. But if we really do need you, we'll come talk to you, right? But other
Mhm.
than that, I mean, we don't want you to burn out because we really value you as a person, right? So, sometimes we don't advocate for our own selves, as you were saying, or to take care of us, right? Especially in helping positions. We are in those positions very often because we want to help other people and we give to other people and we are other focused. And if we can't take care of ourselves, if we can't put that oxygen mask on first, then we are no good to anybody else or we are less than who
Right.
we can be for them. And that causes, that just builds upon itself, builds upon itself on our stress level, it builds upon ourselves in our reputation of who we can be for somebody else. And then we say, well, you never have time and you never give me time and I'm all stressed out. And, so then we explode, we blow up, we complain when how often is it if we just express our needs and let people know what's going on in the moment, people will say, okay, I hear you. Right.
Yep. I didn't realize for a long time that I could say no to stuff. Like I
Yeah.
really didn't. I really like, especially when I was new to the career and like ambitious, I was like, I have to say yes to everything because if I say no, then I'm going to lose opportunities. And I found out that's not true. You can say no. You can't say no, and people don't die. It's fine. Um, so I think like solutions, like we obviously can acknowledge that there's stress and there's like things that we have to be willing to do. And I say willing to do because I think inherently we might know we need to do it, but we're not willing to practice. Um, I think a big part of like stress prevention or at least stress management is kind of what you were just talking about, Carl. And that's really putting some boundaries um, around yourself and maybe with other people about what you can and can't do in the workplace. And it that can be uncomfortable. Like creating boundaries are easy, but keeping boundaries is really, really challenging. Um, I struggled with that for years, because I wanted to be the best, right? So at the expense of my well-being. But I think I'm beyond that now. Again, I still stress myself out from time to time, but I've gotten way better at saying no, or I'm not available, or here's when I can do it, versus let me make space in my already very busy life to accommodate your need. I love to accommodate your need as long as it's not stepping on mine. So really kind of understanding my limits of where I am well. But again, there's financial implications as well, right? So part of like that model you showed earlier about your financial wellness, like I'd love to work 1 or 2 days a week. That would be ideal for me. But the way my bank account is set up, I have to work a little bit more than that. So, finding that balance in those needs is incredibly important, but you have to really kind of pay attention to your own cues. I can have, I can work all the time and make a good amount of money, but if I don't have any time to enjoy the fruits of my labor, isn't really wellness. I might be doing well financially, but maybe spiritually I'm lacking. Maybe,
Yeah.
health wise I'm lacking, and that's something I have to consider.
Yeah.
Um, so I think setting boundaries and also like I love the story you told about your coworker saying, when this is up, please leave me alone. I got stuff to do. Like as leaders too, you have other work to do. And I know that there's been this pressure for like leaders have to be always approachable and you know, um, open door policy. And I don't think that's true. Like you can close your door from time to time if you need to focus. Like if your team can't go an hour without your support, again, you are not a great leader. I hate to say it like that, but it's true. If you can't go away to a training for a day and they don't know what to do in your absence, you've created a very dependent team without any like good coping mechanisms to be independent, and that's on you, right? That's on you. There should be a better support system where you can go on vacation for a week and know that the whole place isn't going to fall apart in your absence. So that's like create better boundaries, create better systems so that people are not feeling stressed. The other thing I'll say for management, and I'm going to say for even operations, is that you all have to learn how to be more realistic with workloads and talk to each other. So management may be like, we got all this work, we got this many people, let's separate it, but it may be overwhelming and unreasonable for the people doing the job. And the people doing the job, like, don't just say, oh my God, it's too much work, but really give some genuine feedback. This is how much time this takes. This is how much time this takes. In an 8 hour day, this is what we can accomplish. And what you're asking to do is unreasonable. So we either need to look at the workload or we need to look at the process, how we approach the work, but this is not feasible. Instead of trying to burn the candle at both ends, making things work when it's not going to. And then again, people's hair starts to fall out because of all of these unreasonable expectations. So it's really easy for me to look at a spreadsheet and look at data and say, okay, let's just divide and do the math. These people are going to do this. But in the real world, it's not that simple. And we have to keep that in mind. We keep asking people to do more with less. And I don't think that's necessarily there's not longevity in that, to be honest with you.
No.
Not longevity.
Mm-mm. And
So that's
just
number one, boundaries. Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
well, no, just talking about boundaries and just thinking, just we can establish our boundaries with other people, but we can establish boundaries within ourselves as well. We can
Yeah.
give ourselves grace. We can let give ourselves the opportunity to recognize that not everything has to go how other people want or how what other people expect from us, right? There's this a sheet that I share, and I want to show it to you real quick. You've probably seen it before. I actually got this when I was a county worker working for, and had somebody from UC Davis come and share it. And let me see. Are you able to see it?
I don't see. It's just a black screen right now.
Hmm. Okay. Let me try one more time, and then I will. Okay. Let me see. How about now? You see it now?
Mm, black screen.
Black screen. Ah. Okay. Well, barnacles. I was going to show you, but there's something that is called it's a sheet that's called Super Stress Busters, right? And it's something that um is really a great way of thinking about stress and how we manage our stress and how we deal with our stress. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
All right, there it is. And so these are just some tips that were shared. I think maybe our mutual friend Nora might have been the person who introduced me to this, but yeah, because this seems like a Nora thing, right? And
Yeah.
so just taking a look at some of those tips that are there, right? Spending time with positive people that support you, breaking those tasks into smaller steps, writing down things important that you have to do, right? Even people who are type A who have that to-do list in their head, studies have shown if you write things down, you're not so stressed about trying to remember it, right? It's just there, right? It gives you peace of mind, even though you're not going to forget it. It's there will help you, right? And those of us who chase squirrels for a living, we need to write stuff down, right?
Right.
So, but just, I mean, learn to say no to unnecessary tasks or tasks that are not priorities, right? And the three in the middle, of the second column were things that really helped me in my practice and as a case manager. Remember, you cannot control the actions of other people, right? So other people may not show up, they may not answer the phone, they may, bail on something, they may, lie to you, but you can't
Hmm.
control those, right? But you can control how you react to things and people, right? It's up to you to decide, how you are going to respond in a helpful way, right? And so that's just something that really people just, they live off their emotions and then they go, oh, I trust you till you break my trust and I'll never trust you again. Well, that might work in some places, but it doesn't work everywhere, right?
Right.
Pick and choose your battles. Do you have to fight every battle? Do you have to die on every hill, right? Is every hill worth dying on, right?
Yes.
And
Oh,
yeah, well,
no, I'm
then
just kidding.
you get you do what you've always done. You're going to get what you've always got, right?
Right.
So just thinking about those things. Is there anything there that stands out to you, Tiff?
Um, oh, I like the don't make things harder than they are. Keep it simple. I'm all about simplicity. I'm all
Mm-hmm.
about simplicity. Just figure it out. Don't make it hard. I also will say like taking care of yourself. I don't know how you are, Carl, in your personal life, but for me, and I think a lot of women specifically, we have a hard time just being and just relaxing. It's there's like all this pressure to always be doing something. So even if, I'm trying to like sit down and watch TV, I feel like I'm wasting time. Like I need to fold the laundry or I need to,
Yeah.
cook dinner or whatever. Like it's really hard sometimes for people to value the experience of like bed rot, just being and existing and not doing anything or thinking about anything for anybody. So I really would like, I think, to keep things simple and to recognize we don't always have to be active. There's got to be space for respite, and that's not selfish at all.
Love it. Love it. And so those are the super stress busters, and take a look at them, screenshot it, whatever it is, any of those are mindsets we can have, right? And those are things that, I have a copy of that at my desk when I work, right? Just to look at those to help me to stay focused and to help me to stay focused on myself and my own well-being, right? And, it's not easy all the time to focus on our well-being, but, we need to get there. So,
Yeah.
Tiff, any hot tips,
My best
boundaries?
hot tip, yeah, take boundaries are number one always. And this, like, do this when you are, I would say, when you create your boundaries when you're in a good mindset. Like, you don't want to create boundaries when you're already stressed out. Like, take some time for respite, get yourself in a space of where you can be like logical and genuine and really think like, what are the things that if I could change it, it would make my life easier, and put some boundaries around that. Like, I have some family members, I only talk to them when I'm in the right headspace. And so I'm not opposed to sending you to voicemail if I'm not in a mental space to be able to manage your energy in that moment. I can give myself that freedom to not engage if it's not going to bring me joy, basically. Um, and there's always things that we have to do because there are obligations or we've committed to them. But I also will say limit what you say yes to, because if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And sometimes what you're saying no to is your well-being, your health, your ability to sleep at night. And I will say there are very few things that are worth that type of stress. And so um, the other thing I will say is like pay attention to your body. Like, we oftentimes will get those warning signs that we're getting to our breaking point. Like, maybe you're having trouble sleeping at night. Maybe you're waking up at 3 in the morning wondering, when's the last time I cleaned the dishwasher filter? Things that are probably not super relevant, but you're obsessing over them. Like, that's a real signal that your body is not working well. And so, like, pay attention to that. And I have to just acknowledge that's easier said than done, because a lot of times we try to, justify it. But I've learned after my last really big meltdown that I had a couple years ago, where my last crying session, um, where I have to pay attention and I have to listen. Like, when my husband starts to say, "You're breathing weird," I have to acknowledge that I probably am. And that means that that's a time to deal with it versus to when it gets to its breaking point. So also surround yourself with people who love you and who will tell you the truth. Surround yourself with people who will be like, you need to take a break, or we need to take a walk, or get your shit together. That love you enough to tell you when maybe you're getting to your stress point. And I will also say, ask for and accept help when it's offered. Ask for help when you need it, and accept the help when it's offered. Again, I told you my husband's the smartest man alive, and I remember like one of the reasons I love him the most is that um, there was a time where I felt I had been responsible for everything for everybody for a really long period of time. I was a single mom, 3 kids, like trying to succeed at work, succeed at home, succeed in my personal life. Like, there was a lot of pressure to do it all. And I remember he would try to help me with stuff, and I would be like, "No, I got it. No, I got it. No, I got it." And he finally, like, one day was like, "Look, you need to learn, like I really got a lecture on this one. You need to learn how to accept help, and you need to learn to let me carry some of this weight that you have on your shoulders. Like, you do not have to do it for everybody, and you're going to learn how to accept this help. And so I'm going to do this, and I'm not taking no for an answer." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." uh, Sexy, right? Like, but it took me a little bit to trust that I can get help and still be a superwoman. And
Yeah.
so now I probably have taken it too far because he does everything. I do nothing now. I don't do anything around here. So he pretty much carries all the weight now. Sorry, but he really does do a lot of the heavy lifting. Um, but it really does take like trust that other people are offering you help because they know you need it and they love you. It's not because they're trying to diminish your value. It's they want to add to your value and give you some
Yeah.
space. And so ask for and accept help when it's offered.
And
But you're
trust
not a
that people
burden
have
to
your best
anyone.
interest in mind. Yeah, trust that
Really,
people
really
have your
do.
best interest in mind.
Yeah, you're
So
not a
yeah,
burden. You're not burdening
no,
anybody. If they're offering you help, it's because they're willing to give it and let them take that weight off your shoulders for a bit. And trust and believe you can always take it back later. You can always
amen,
take it back
sister.
later. Yep.
I hear
So those
you.
are my hot
Well,
tips. Those are my hot tips for the day.
all right. Now go take all of those and go be better. Be well.
Yeah. Be well.
Live long and prosper.
Oh, I can do that. That's weird.
Yeah.
Is that how you do
Ah,
it? I feel like I'm throwing gang
yeah.
signs right now. Hold on.
Oh,
I
it's throwing
what
Star
markets is
Trek
this
gang
playing
signs.
in? Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, what markets is this playing in? Are we
No,
going to be in
no,
trouble?
no. I'm not going to El Salvador. Sorry. No.
All
Ah.
right, not me either.
Until then, till the next time, I'm Carl.
And I'm Tiff.
And
Be
keep it
well.
real, live long and prosper. West Side or East Side, Vulcan. Yeah. All right.